What's up guys, my name is Tim and today we have the late 2016 model F36 BMW, but it has a B48 engine in it. It's a 430i. You can find this engine in modern BMWs, so the X3 would have the 3 Series, 330 and everything that has 30i in the end, newer cars. So in this B48 engine, what are we going to do? We're going to replace the water pump. The car has around 95,000 miles, so it's about time. And I'll show you guys how to do that step by step. Also, we'll find out the signs of leakage and all the tools you need to complete the job. First thing first, we're going to remove the beauty covers, which is this one, and you just pop it up. There we go. And this one as well. So one point right here, the other on the other side, and this one is just slides out. This will give us room to inspect. If you're experiencing the coolant loss and the car asks you to fill up a coolant once in a while, it's a closed system, so unless there is a leak, it doesn't go anywhere. So generally look for spots like this. So this is the coolant spots around the expansion tank, but that's most likely because it's been filled like this. But you can find those same spots at the points of leakage. So if you look inside, here's where the water pump is, and right there, that's the spots that I'm looking for in order to determine the leak. So it is right there. That's why we're replacing the water pump. The B48 engine is different from the previous generation 4-cylinder. This one has fully mechanical water pump, and it also has the electric one, but it's a secondary pump. And as before, we always replaced water pump and thermostat together. That's not the case anymore because there is no traditional thermostat on those engines no more. It's a thermoregulating unit of sorts. So it's not required to really replace both of them at the same time. That's why we're only going to do the mechanical water pump. The good thing is it's a cheaper part now, but as you know, it fails just like anything else. First of all, we're going to need to remove the air intake pipes, this one and this one, as well as the air filter box. So, and disconnect all the electrical connectors. They are pretty much the same type, all of them. So this one, basically, we gotta push this tab right there and put it right here, and there we go. Simple as that. This one will have the regulars. You can use the 6mm socket. It's facing downwards right here, the clamp. So remove that. And the air filter box, actually, this one is on clips like this. So you just pull it up. Let's see. Yep. Later on, we'll do that. To disconnect this pipe, we have 3 Torx 30 bolts, one here, one there, and one directly underneath in the middle. So those 3 will disconnect the intake pipe from the throttle body. And we also have a clamp right there at the bottom. We will see more clearly when I remove the air filter box. I'm going to be using the small ratchet and the 7mm socket to disconnect the clamp on this air intake. Since it's facing downwards, it's just easier to do it this way rather than using a screwdriver. Although if you have a relatively small one, it's okay. You can do that. There we go. It's completely loose. And now, to make the process easier a little bit, we will unclip those things right here. See? One. And you have them all around the air filter box, so those are easily visible. And that's it. Now carefully disconnect. There we go. Oof, nice. That thing needs to be replaced. Now it's going to be easier to remove the bottom part of the air filter box, and as you can see, it's sitting on one clip right here at the bottom, so that's your point of lifting, and the other one is right here. I believe the other one is right there as well, so it's 3 in total. That's it. But it's easier once there's nothing else. So 1, 2, and the third one. There we go. It might come up like this with the rubber, so just put it back. This will allow us to have a better view of the clamp right there. So it's a metal bracket that you have to lift on the turbo intake, and right here. This metal clamp is right there, right here. Now all we gotta do is just lift this bracket up and slide it out. Don't lose it, it's possible. Now we have this whole thing out, and that, as you can see, it points to slight other coolant leaks. That's all coolant, so I'll investigate that, but it's usually the turbo coolant line. Next step would be to drain or suck out the coolant that you have, so I'll start with that. I'll suck the coolant out. We'll also put some catch tray underneath, because once you remove the water pump, there's going to be some spillage, so be ready for that. But let's start with that. Worth noting that, of course, it's best to work on a cold car. Not my case today, since it's been driven, not by me, of course, not my car. Another failure, as you guys can see. This part of the expansion tank cap have failed. There are 2 seals, 1 and 2. This plastic is all broken up, so it should be more of a cap here, basically. That needs to be replaced, but it will not really cause any real issues, even when this seal is completely gone and is just sitting on one. Usually it's not a problem. Bleeder screw out, and this one's open. Now I'm going to use just a regular hand pump to suck out all the coolant that I can from those 2 points, and we'll go from there. You should get about almost 3/4 from the sucking out all the coolant from those 2 expansion tanks, so that's about right. Now we're gonna remove this dust cover of sorts. It's sitting just on clips, so this is one very visible one that's right on top. Then there's a second one. I think in total it's 4 as far as I remember. Yep, that's number 2. The other one is hard to see, but it is right there. Let me put some light on it. And I don't know if you can see, guys, but it's right there. I'm pointing at it right now. So this is the clip number 3. And the last one is right here in this corner, and we're already missing it, so we just have the part of it right there. So it's 4 in total. Now this shield can be moved out of the way, technically, but we still need to, now it's time to disconnect all the hoses. Basically it's this one, this one, this one, and the bottom one. This will drain some more coolant. This is a thermoregulating unit, just so you know. So expect it. I already have my catch can underneath. So let's do it. Those are simple BMW quick connect hoses. Actually, I'm not even going to disconnect this one. I'll start with this hose. This one would be hard to disconnect since it's one hose going into another, and I don't think we need that. We don't need to fully disconnect it. Careful with the hose. As you can see, coolant comes out right away. Word of advice, just be very, very gentle with everything here because it just gets brittle over time. Now let's disconnect the bottom one. We must. That here you can expect significant amount of coolant to come out since it's the bottom point. Yep. There we go. Catching all of it. All good. Now we can finally remove that thing. That's already a little bit, I'd say, worn out. I don't really see a reason for it to be there in the first place, but hey, what do I know? And now we're finally ready to get to water pump removal process. So first of all, there's 3 10mm bolts right here on the water pump pulley. Loosen them while the belt is still attached. They're not tight at all, so just a slight. There you go. Nothing else needed to be done. And after that, we can, of course, remove the belt. So the tensioner is right here. It's a 5/8 socket. It used to be 16mm. Not anymore, apparently. So that fits right in, and we're gonna be rotating it clockwise. So like tightening it. So that will remove the tension, and we'll be able to remove the belt. If you're not sure how the belt goes, just take a picture of it before you do that. And keep the belt orientation in mind. Not that I think it's going to be anything catastrophic if you point it out a different direction, but that's an old saying. Now, since the bolts are loosened on the water pump pulley, you can easily remove them by hand. It's 3 10mm once again, and when you do so, you can remove the pulley so it's gonna be out of your way. You will have those bolts, I think, coming with the new pump. There we go. The pulley is out. Now here's the water pump, and we have a vacuum line coming in here. So that's something to keep in mind. So remove the vacuum line. We have 4 bolts in total holding the water pump to the block. So as you can see, 1, 2, there is 3 right here, and number 4 is right there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You can check it out on the new pump, but those are easily accessible bolts. And now we can clearly see where it's leaking. So you see all those coolant spots. This is coming from this plastic piece right there. So yep, that's where it's coming from in general. Let's remove it. And that's the last one. All those bolts are the same length, so don't worry of mixing them up. And secondly, you'll get the new ones, as far as I remember. Now, the pump is not going to be that simple to remove, most likely, so it's like, yeah, it's pretty good in there. So a little pry bar, but don't pry against anything dangerous, like I'll show you where. All right, so I got just a regular tire pry bar, and I'll put it on here, so it's a part of the tensioner. We don't need much force. Yep, there you go, just a little force, because by hand you won't be able to remove it, but with a little bit of force from pry bar, so it wasn't much at all, just a little tap basically. That's it. And now the whole thing comes out. There we go. This is it. That's your water pump. Now, very important moment, guys. Pay attention. So here I got the new water pump. First of all, the brand is Solari. And if you look at this pump right here, what does it say? That's the original pump. Right here. Do you see it? Solari. Solari BMW. So OEM pump is Solari, this one. If you want to pay double, even though the part is not expensive, you can get the BMW one, but it's going to say Solari on it. Anyways, it's the same part, but the reason we got this one, we had nothing else in stock at all. And this is OEM part. So it comes, let's open it up. There's a very important thing that me, first time doing the job, missed it, and it took me a few minutes to figure it out, so I don't want you guys to fall for the same trap. As you can see, so here's basically the pump. Pay attention to this area right here, and what I have in the mix here is this O-ring. This O-ring goes right here, but there's no O-ring here. The reason being, it's still there in the engine block. So when you put this new pump in there and you didn't notice missing O-ring, that it's still inside, this one will not go in fully, and when you try to force it, it will start forcing this whole piece out. So pay attention, get the O-ring from the block. Let's get to it. You probably won't see it, even not in the camera, just in general, so I'm going to use the pick tool and just try to get the O-ring from there. I can feel it, so it's not like you can see it, but yep, there we go. Here's this O-ring. Without removing it, it's going to be a failure to install the pump, the new one. Now we have this kit. There's a new pulley for the pump, and there's a hell of a lot of bolts. All of those bolts really not necessary, but since we got them, we'll replace them. This piece right here, so it's like this is the way it goes. There's a 10mm bolt right here that holds this part in place. It's a vacuum regulator thing, like this thing flips up and down. Interesting design, sort of. So yep, all you gotta do is just put it right there. Come on. Yep, there we go. And just put in one of the new 10mm in place. The water pump is ready to install, so all I need to do is just clean up the surface a little bit. Also, don't forget to absolutely lubricate this O-ring and the seal, the water pump seal, just with a smudge of coolant, nothing else needed. You don't need to put any sealant or anything like that. Just a bit of coolant is gonna be just fine. All right, we are all good to go right here. Now the water pump is ready to be installed, and it should go very smooth. Just keep it straight. There we go. Yep. Now seems like everything's in place, and just put those 4 bolts back in the spot. Hand tight first and then tighten them. The torque specs, very little. I could feel it max at maybe 8 Newton meters, but that would be max. So I'd say 6 to 8 Newton meters. I don't know exactly, so if you guys are worried about that, just check with the service manual. Common sense is the best rule in that case, because there's very little to no torque. So the water pump is in place, all 4 bolts are tight. There is no particular pattern to it, so just go crisscross, sort of. The one thing I want to pay attention to is don't forget to plug in the vacuum line, and that's pretty much it. Now we're gonna install back the pulley. Hand tight first, of course, and install the belt. Now it's hand tight, I'll just hold the pulley and turn as much as I can. It's not gonna do anything, but it will keep the pulley aligned. And now we're ready to install the belt. Now the belt. All right, we'll put it on the crankshaft first. It goes underneath the water pump pulley, and it goes around the idler pulley and to the alternator. So it's kind of like that, and AC compressor. And of course it's not gonna fit that easily, so this is how we're gonna do it. All we gotta do is, once again, clockwise. It's not much tension in here. Put it where it's supposed to go. As long as it's all aligned in the proper order, it should be relatively simple. And it is. The only thing, just make sure, guys, everything will go into the grooves. Although if it doesn't, once you start the car, it will, unless it's too way out of line. Like I feel this, yep, right there. Now it's the way it's supposed to be. So check and double check the belt goes into all the grooves properly and sitting good. And now after that, of course, don't forget to tighten a little bit your bolts on the water pump pulley, even though there's not much tension. There we go, water pump installed. Now first thing first, I'm going to install this shield back because connecting hoses is going to be easier. So remember the clips, so the holes will align. The top, it's total of 4 on one. There is 2 and 2 at the bottom. We're missing 1, unfortunately. So there it goes. And now the hoses back in order. Don't forget to put back the brackets, those clips over there. There we go. All coolant lines are connected. Remember when I said those are coolant spots on the charge pipe? It is, but I recently, well, I inspected everything, and it's usually those coolant spots are coming from the failed coolant line, this one, and this one looks completely fine and it has been replaced. I can tell by the look of it, it's new. And also the customer told me some coolant hose has been replaced because it's been leaking, and I can definitely tell this was this one, and it's been leaking to the charge pipe. So now I usually like to just move this bracket a little bit out of the way to minimize the tension, and then click it in place over there. It's in, and the bracket is too. So that's in, and remember those 3 Torx 30 bolts right here. Now putting back the air filter box, just the same way we removed it. The bottom part comes first, clicks in. There we go. Then the duty filter, for now, I'll advise to replace it. And this part right here. Just make sure it's all the way in and it clicks in, sort of. Now we can click in the box and tighten up the clamp. Don't forget to plug in your mass airflow. Now when everything's in place and everything's tight, just don't forget to plug the sensors back in till it clicks, and this one right here. All right, good as new. Now we gotta fill up the system and run the car. You took about 3/4, a little less than 3/4 of coolant from here, so expect at least a gallon with all the spillage and everything. So you'll need, I would recommend you get 2 gallons of pre-mixed coolant, or 1 gallon of concentrate and 1 gallon of distilled water. I use Xerix G48 for BMWs. It's approved for BMW use. It's already 50/50 pre-diluted, so it's just a simpler, faster solution for me. If you get the BMW concentrate, because all the BMW coolant is concentrated, you don't need to pre-mix it, so just put 2 quarts of concentrate and 2 quarts of distilled water, let's say, and it will be mixed within the system just fine. Fill up to the max, maybe a little bit overflow. Once you start the car, the coolant will go through all the system and it will go down. Also keep this plug out so the air can escape. But before you start the car, let the car sit for a little bit after you fill it up. Let the coolant kind of make its way through the system, and then I'm gonna close the plug, and only after that we can start the car. I'll leave both of those reservoirs open. Turn the heater to the max heat, the fan to the minimum, as does need to be at the max. It's an old school bleeding technique. It's a self-bleeding system at this point, but still, I like to do that, so let's just do that. Now we're gonna turn the car on, put the heater to the max, this one right here as well. The AC is off. Let it sit for a second, and then I'm gonna start it up. Now once the car is started, the coolant level will go down, so we'll fill it up more. Let it idle for, I would say, at least 5-6 minutes with the both caps off, just to let the air out, to clear the system better, to basically bleed the system better out of all the air that is there. And keep an eye on the coolant level, because you'll need to add some here and there. So this is it, guys. All the levels are good. The car's been running for a while. I topped up all the fluids. So when the car is sitting overnight, just check the coolant level in the morning, because it might go down a little bit, so you might need to fill it up, since we are filling up the car when it's running and the temperature is higher, so the fluid expands. Other thing, make sure your heater is blowing hot air, and if everything checks out, you're good to go. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this video will bring you confidence to do this job yourself. As you can see, there's nothing too complicated in there, and you'll be able to save some money. So drop a like, share the video, like the video, and if you have any questions, I'll answer all of them in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.